morning, everyone. Good morning to our honored guests, panelists, and viewers. The Baltimore County Police Department celebrates Black History Month and the contributions of African Americans across the country. The goal of today's discussion is to inform and share our employment opportunities and efforts with the community members we serve. The support from our community partners has been a valuable aspect of our recruiting efforts. As we move forward, we are always looking for innovative ways to connect with our applicant base. Social media has provided us with a platform to reach our applicants quickly and efficiently. If you find this video helpful, this information will be posted on all of our social media platforms. Please like, share, and comment. As we celebrate Black History Month, we would like to take the time to explain some of our internal workings and recruitment goals. We will also highlight and share stories from our African American officers in the Baltimore County Police Department. Director Fenner is one of our honored guests. We will begin with her first. Good morning, Director Fenner. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for being here with us. We appreciate you sharing your time. I will go ahead and begin with your bio. Kelly Fenner is a retired police captain from Maryland Transit Administration Police Force. She has 26 years of honorable service. She retired on June 1st of 2020. Kelly holds a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice with a concentration in Homeland Security, Emergency Management, and a Master of Science degree in Management with a concentration in Organizational Leadership and Change. She has 18 years of experience in executive command, working every aspect of the organization from patrol to recruitment, administration, investigation, special ops, and technical services. One of Director Fenner's fondest memories of her law enforcement career is being the first Officer of the Year, but also the first Black female Officer of the Year. On June 15, 2020, Kelly started with the Baltimore County Police Department as the Chief Director and Inclusion Officer. She is excited to be an agent of change with the Baltimore County Police Department, and we are happy to have her here. Thank you again so much, Director Fenner, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
We would like for you to share your role, your position, what your office offers to not only police officers here with the Baltimore County Police Department, but also to the community we serve.
Sure. Thanks again, Dawn, for that great intro. I appreciate it. To start off, you might ask yourself exactly what is a Dnr officer. To give you a little bit of background, I'll focus on the letters Dnr for a moment. The D stands for diversity, and that's just the full spectrum of human differences. The I is the welcoming, supporting, respecting, and valuing of ideas, contributions, and individuals, which allows them access to opportunities. I'll add another letter that's not in my title, but is equally important in this conversation, and that is E for equity. Equity refers to the removal of barriers that restricts access to resources and opportunities. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are all key elements in the success of the department. So in a nutshell, as a Dnr officer, that is a person who focuses on ensuring an organization intentionally utilizes the framework of diversity, equity, and inclusion to perform their duties and in the advancement of the organization. As the Chief Dnr officer here, I'm charged with developing and instituting a DEI strategic plan with a focus on recruitment and retention. The focus of DEI adds in bridging the communication gap, removing barriers that restrict personnel from thriving, recruiting diverse candidates, retaining talent, and developing cultural competence. With the assistance of a few senior leaders here at Baltimore County Police Department, we've been able to regularly conduct career training opportunities for those who desire to be promoted. It's had some successful feedback and even shown an increase in minority representation and supervision. We will continue to move forward in that regard, aiding in the progression of the department as it relates to continued representation through entry-level positions, promotions, and specialized assignments. Some of the goals in my office include amplifying voices and creating allyship, strengthening our community connections, empowering inclusive leaders, growing the organization, and restoring trust internally as well as externally. We strive to transform as opposed to conform. We're looking to build an inclusive organization that embraces perspectives based on unique experiences rather than trying to get individuals to think, act, or behave like everybody else. I'll share a quick story with you because what I realized is we conform without even realizing it. When I was in grade school, we had a young man named Kwame. Kwame wasn't from the United States, but his family was. Actually, that's backwards. Kwame was born in the United States, but his family wasn't. And instead of learning how to pronounce his name, we as children made it more comfortable for ourselves and called him May. While it may have been harmless as kids, it wasn't until I started doing this type of work that I realized that working with people with varying backgrounds required me to be intentional about how I spell and pronounce their names. It also necessitated me leaning into my cultural intelligence and my own personal experiences to understand that it was inappropriate to change or even alter a person's name. Being aware of the significance of how family names are deeply rooted into the values and beliefs that tie people to their destinies corrected my behavior. Oftentimes, there's pressure to conform or change or even assimilate. And it's not really about the difficulty of spelling or pronouncing a person's name, but rather about the willingness to learn. And that's what DEI is all about. The willingness to learn, to be open, and to replace sympathy with empathy if it already doesn't exist. I like to be cognizant of the fact that empathy and sympathy are two different things. Empathy being a ability, whereas sympathy is a feeling. Empathy is the ability to understand and share your feelings and the feelings of others, while sympathy is the feeling of pity and sorrow for someone else. DEI is consciously designed with that in mind. There is a huge spectrum of differences for us as people. Hopefully, the efforts that we put into our strategic plan for DEI will help expand our cultural competence as well as our cultural intelligence. Thank you very much, Dawn.
Wonderful. Thank you again for being here, and thank you for your offerings. I have learned something new today that I did not know about your office, so thank you for enlightening myself and also the viewers. In addition to that, Director Fenner, thank you so much for working closely with the employment unit and our efforts here. We've reached out to you several times for your input, and it's always been valuable, and we've been able to put those things into use and into practice. So thank you so much for your service here with Baltimore County, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too. Next up, we have Officer Robert Wright. Officer Wright is a veteran officer here with the Baltimore County Police Department. Hello, Officer Wright. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. And yourself?
I'm great. Thank you for being here with us today.
Certainly.
So can you introduce yourself to the audience and maybe describe a portion of your career so we have a better understanding of your history here?
Yes, certainly. I'm Detective Robert Wright, as was said. And prior to joining the police department, I served in the United States Marine Corps. And as a result of my service in the Marine Corps, I developed a strong sense of esprit de corps, responsibility, commitment to task, and a desire to serve. And upon discharging from the Marine Corps, I sought a profession that offered that same structure. And naturally, I was drawn to law enforcement. And after exploring several law enforcement agencies, I joined the Baltimore County Police Department in 1987. And I graduated the academy as one of 6 African American officers in a class of 40. and two of those African American officers were from other jurisdictions. So actually, there were four of us going to Baltimore County. And after graduating the academy, I was assigned to the White Marsh precinct, where I was one of four African American officers in the precinct and the only one on my shift. And in 1994, I transferred to the Woodlawn precinct, where I was surprised and elated to find that I was one of many African American officers, not just in the precinct, but also on my shift. And shortly after that, in 1996, the community action team was established in the police department. And I was chosen to be a part of that unit as one of three African American officers in a 48-person unit. And that unit quickly became my best assignment to date. And in 1998, I was assigned to the Internal Affairs section. And in 2012, while still assigned to the Internal Affairs section, I served as a fill-in member of the Executive Protection Detail. And in 2015, I became the first African American to serve in a full-time capacity on the Executive Protection Detail. And I'm there to the present.
Very good. Very good. With your tenure in mind, can you speak on how the applicant experience has improved over the years? We know that Generation Z and the millennials want to see value and purpose in their employment. What aspects of law enforcement do you think appeal to our African American community, and why should they join? And I know your perspective is going to be a bit richer because you're a veteran, and so you have the military experience and your law enforcement experience. But what do you think they're looking for, and why do you think that they should join?
Well, as far as the applicant process goes, years ago, you had to more or less know or be directed to an agency because we didn't have the social media and the outreach that the agencies use now. The process has continued to improve to adapt to the mindset of the millennials and the Z generation, as you say. But in the past, potential applicants were expected to adjust to the ideals of the agency. Now it is the duty of the police departments and law enforcement as a whole to adjust to society and the communities in which they serve. And I can tell you, while I didn't always subscribe to this, I truly believe now that service first must indeed become the mindset of law enforcement. And while this agency has done a better job of hiring minorities, it still falls short of accurately mirroring the demographics of the communities. And that sort of makes minorities hesitant to join this agency, or any police agencies for that matter. And so they'll gravitate towards an agency that does reflect who they are.
Yeah.
One of the appealing aspects of the job for potential minority applicants is the assurance that the agency will support them and allow them to succeed. But the most appealing aspect is not having to look far to find other minorities who have succeeded in the agency. And regardless of how desirable the agency might be otherwise, minority applicants seek representation. And that's almost in any arena that they venture.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you go into an arena and all you see is you and no one else that looks like you, no one else that understands you, no other representation at all, then you feel unwanted, unsupported, uncomfortable. And so the applicants seek that representation from those that can relate to them and understand them.
Very good. I appreciate your take on that. Would you recommend a friend or family member to join the Baltimore County Police Department?
I would certainly recommend to family and friends a career in law enforcement, and more specifically, the Baltimore County Police Department. If law enforcement is truly a calling.
Yes.
If you have a desire to be a law enforcement officer, otherwise you're going to fail in this profession. And when I say fail, I don't mean that you won't be able to do the job, but you won't be able to do it correctly. You know. And furthermore, while I resisted it, my son joined the police department. But after he expressed an overwhelming desire for law enforcement and was determined to become a police officer, I could not be any prouder.
Good, 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 good. So would you say your lasting legacy here is your son joining the ranks? Would you say that passing the torch is your legacy here?
Well, I was that would be great. I was concerned about that initially because um, I was hesitant about it, concerned about it because I wasn't sure how he was going to do. You know,
He's got big
and
shoes to fill.
yeah, but my desire is for him to make those shoes bigger.
Yeah.
You know, and he's on the path to doing that.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He's already taken advantage of promotional opportunities. He's
Yes,
moved around to a few different precincts in a short amount of time. So he's making a mark and he's doing very well. So you should be proud. Well,
thank you.
Detective Wright, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your service in the military and also your long tenure here. And thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. We're going to move on to Officer Robert Smith. Officer Smith, would you like to introduce yourself and offer us a quick bio?
Sure. I'm Officer Robert Smith. I have about a little over 15 years with Baltimore County. Prior to that, I was in the United States military active duty for about 8 years. Um, I got out of there and came home after talking to some family members and decided to do ride along. I did 2 ride alongs with my brother-in-law over in Dundalk on the midnight shift and during day work to really figure out if this was what I wanted to do. Um, I applied to a few different agencies. Baltimore County got back with me first. So from there, I went to the academy. It was a really good experience for me. Uh, I thought that I was going to cruise through the physical part, and I did. A lot of guys were a little bit younger. I was about 25 and went on to the Pikesville precinct out of the academy, where I've been most of my career. I am currently an SRO. Um, the job that I really enjoy. Get to get out with the community and
Okay.
the juveniles.
Well, thank you for bringing up the SRO position because that's a nice segue. But before we get into that, thank you so much for your service to our country. We appreciate that, and we're honored to have you here as a veteran now serving the Baltimore County Police Department and also as a school resource officer. Recruitment and retention goals have always been at the forefront of our employment unit. We have partnered with local and national historically Black colleges and universities to support a collective effort for our process. We know that continuing our community engagement is valuable in creating career opportunities. We also know that you are currently assigned to Milford Mill Academy. You were at Pikesville for a point. How has creating and building trusting relationships with the seniors from both Pikesville and Milford, how has that helped shape seniors who may be interested in law enforcement as far as your relationship with them and possible mentorship?
I think it's vital. I think I'm in a really good position for myself, the department, as well as the youth that may be interested in becoming a police officer one day. I have the special opportunity at Pikesville, especially. I was able to coach football, which is a dream of mine, and I got to reach um, the kids from a different perspective, not just as from being an officer. I got to know who they are and hear about what happens with them on the weekends and their fears and all that stuff. So when they come to me and ask about how it is to be an officer, I can give them my journey. Um, And I think that's vital. I think that SRO program is a tool, not only for recruitment. I think it's a very vital thing for recruitment, but as a department for the kids to see us in a different light.
Sure. Sure. As a veteran from the United States Army, if a veteran was to approach you today, knowing your history and your background, and they were sharing with you their interest with the Baltimore County Police Department, what would you share with them? What are your highlights? What would you suggest for them as a newer applicant?
As a newer, I suggest that, to come and attempt to do ride-alongs with this department. I'm big on Baltimore County. I tell them to try us first. Um, if it's something that you want to do, because this isn't a job, some of the other panelists said that, if you just looking for a job, this is something that you're going to want to do. And to try us. Baltimore County is taking military personnel. I think that we help strengthen the ranks here. You get to reach the community using the tools that the military gives you, whether it be, dealing with people from different backgrounds, the partnership and the camaraderie that the military experience every day is something that's vital in doing this job.
We're going to move on to Corporal Wright, the son of Officer Wright. So you were introduced a little through your father, which I think is very, very cool that we have a legacy duo here right in front of us. So introduce yourself, give us a short bio, and then we'll go from there.
My name is Philip Wright. A lot of people know me as Robbie. I'm currently a corporal with the Baltimore County Police Department. I am currently assigned to the midnight shift at the Dundalk precinct. I was born and raised in Baltimore County. I'm a graduate of the Gilman School in Baltimore, and I attended college at Hofstra University. I graduated in 2010 with my bachelor's in history and political science. In 2011, I entered the Baltimore County Police Department, entered the academy, and in 2012, I was assigned to the Pikesville precinct. In 2020, when I was promoted to 2020, I was promoted to the rank of corporal and assigned to Dundalk. On top of being a police officer, for my free time, I also coach track and field at the Gilman School at the high school level as well.
Very, very cool. Okay. We are responsible to our community to build healthy and lasting relationships. We know that support from our community has resulted in successful recruitment efforts. It has afforded us opportunities to get our message out. Working in patrol and working closely with our community members, how has being an African American helped in connecting with people of color?
So being an African American, I think it makes it easier to relate with a lot of communities. So working in Pikesville is the west side of Baltimore County, and a majority of that population is African American. And just kind of like with just being with that community, handling calls for service with that community, um, a lot of times when you are dealing with them, they want to see somebody that looks like them, that may have been raised where they're raised, or can at least, kind of have shared experiences with them. And it makes it a lot easier to sort of relate and talk to people, not just from a, investigation standpoint, but also just from in general, just helping people out and just you showing people that there's more to a police officer than just a badge, the gun, the radio that you see. That hey, we're human beings, and I can relate to you. I show empathy towards you. I understand the situation you're coming from. I think some of my experiences and a lot of my best experiences on the job have come from relating with other African Americans, other African American families, whether that's a situation where they call about their 10-year-old kid who might have done something bad at home. I come and talk to the kid, and we develop a relationship to where, every couple months, he's calling me, letting me know how he's doing in school and how his grades are going and all the chores he's doing at home and things like that. Or another situation is where I might once again run into a kid on a call. It starts from he's, involved in a destruction of property call, but then we developed a relationship where I can be driving down the road and I see him at the 7-Eleven, or I see him, coming from school, and I'm like, hey, how are things? How are you doing? and there's no sort of distrust there. There's no sort of adversarial relationship. It's a very, hey, I'm checking on you, man. And that kind of shows him that, look, I'm not just about the job, or I'm not just about the investigation of crimes. Like, I care about you as a person. And I think, especially on the West Side, especially with African American communities, they appreciate seeing somebody who's doing this job that not just looks like them, but also is trying to understand and does understand a lot of what they're going through, and just kind of a lot of the things that they deal with. And also, just to touch on that, with me being a coach as well of track and field, a lot of kids I coach are African Americans. And I kind of take that seriously, not just as a coach, but also understanding that as a police officer, I'm probably the one contact they're going to have with a police officer for a very long time, maybe for their entire lives, and they're having that contact with me every single day. So for me, just being able to kind of relate to them and just say, hey, look, there are police officers who look like you, who come from the areas you come from, who've had those experiences that you've had. I take that very seriously, and also just kind of so they can have that positive experience with a police officer, an African American police officer, and through extension, their families, their moms, their dads, siblings who might come through the school can also have that positive experience as well.
Okay, thank you for that. What message would you offer a male or female person of color that would be interested in law enforcement, and maybe they haven't had the opportunity to see themselves in an officer? Maybe the only contact they've had with law enforcement has been white male officers. What would you share with them as far as minorities go here with Baltimore County Police Department?
So I think so I would say that this job is definitely a calling. That'd be the first thing I put out there. This job's a calling. You have to want to do it. Like my father says, this is something you have to do. You have to want to do. There's a lot that come with this job. There's a lot of responsibility. There's long hours. There's a lot of things that come with it. You gotta want to do it, and you gotta be dedicated to it. And just specifically sharing with African Americans, um, if you want to see police officers that look like you, if you want to see police officers that come from your experience, one of the best ways to actually have that happen is for you to join. If you feel that calling and you feel that you want to see that change, one of the best things that can happen is that you join the police department and you go through the process and you be part of that change that you want to see, and you help with that. I'm very big on seeing more African Americans on the job, more diversity on the job, because I feel like one way you're going to have that change, and one way you're going to see kind of like the difference in the patrol ranks, the promotional ranks, even the exec corps ranks. You have to have people who are willing to kind of say, yeah, I want to be a part of that change. I want to be a part of that process. I want to do this job. I would also say that as an African American, especially over the last couple of years specifically, the promotional opportunities are there. The opportunities to go to different specialized units are there. You don't just have to be a patrol officer and just stay there. You can go to different things such as the SRO program. If you want to get promoted, the opportunities there. If you want to join different specialized units such as tactical, canine, narcotics unit, even if you want to do something such as um, financial crimes or anything like that, those opportunities are there for you. And I think, especially over the last couple of years, there's been so many doors open with people who kind of put their foot in the door and kind of held those doors open for others. Where now you're starting to see more African Americans in promotional ranks. You're starting to see more African Americans in the detective ranks. You're starting to see more African Americans in those specialized ranks that maybe you didn't see 10, 15, 20 years previously. So
Good.
I would say the opportunities are definitely there. You just have to want to take them. And also, Baltimore County is an agency that's trying to kind of take those steps to diversify the agency. Baltimore County is taking those steps to, make sure that there's equal representation within the ranks with the communities we serve. And Baltimore County is a very diverse location, and I've learned that especially working in the Dundalk precinct.
Yes.
Baltimore County is very diverse. It is, very neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block, district by district. But like I said before, Baltimore County is doing what I think is a great job of trying to diversify the ranks, diversify the promotional ranks, and diversify the specialized unit ranks to kind of where people are starting to see more of that representation, officers that look like them, empathize with them, kind of share their experience and the things they're going through as well.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you for sharing, and thank you for your service so far, and also thank you for just being a young man when your father was serving all those years and shift work, and so thank you for sharing that with us in the community for so many years. We're going to jump to Officer Young. Hello, Officer Young. How are you? Thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone.
So go ahead and introduce yourself, offer a quick bio, and then we'll move on to the Q&A.
Okay, my name is Officer Renita Young. I'm one of the newer officers on this board, but I started the academy December 2017. I'm currently assigned to the Essex precinct on midnights, and I remember Corporal Wright. I've seen you a couple times, so we're kind of neighbors. I'm currently assigned right now to help out recruitment, and I'm happy to be here. It's good times. Thank you.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for your time today.
Sure.
So we know that law enforcement for you was a second career. You transitioned from corporate America. You were in the insurance business for over 15 years. Talk to us about the transition and why you chose Baltimore County Police Department as your second career.
I chose the county. It's just been a kind of a long road for me, just for various reasons, for family life and just looking for that one change. I was in a situation where I worked for a company in Baltimore City, like I said, for the last 12 years prior to the police department, and they were undergoing some transitions where they were being bought out by certain companies and transitioned to other states. And my family base was here in Baltimore County. I do have a couple friends, close friends that work within the agency, so that kind of drew me to it. But I've always, and I hate to say it, but I've always wanted to be a police officer, worked with kids in the community. If you look at any application or why I wanted to become a police officer was to become an SRO and work with kids. And I wanted to make sure that I reached out to those kids when I was on the road and I could relate to them. I'm a little bit older in the game. Started at the age of 45, went through the academy. So people kind of look at that as like, are you crazy? 45? Yeah, 45. But I did it. It was definitely the most challenging mentally and physically, because I also haven't been in the academic side of for over 20 years. So going in the academy, seeing these kids coming fresh out of high school, college, I'm like, okay, I got to step up my game a little bit. I knew I wasn't going to be first at everything, but I knew I was going to finish. So that
Yeah.
was my main goal. And I knew what my goals are in life, and serving the community, connecting with those kids. A lot of these officers don't like to visit schools. I've learned that doing rotating shifts, that they rather go and arrest and chase people down. And I want to get in front of the game first. So if I get a chance to see those kids riding through the streets on the bike, I want to stop and say, hey, I'm Officer Young. If you guys need anything, I was handing out cards. Whether you threw them in the street after I drove off, that was fine. At least I tried. Um, but I have two daughters, they're a little bit older now, so it was a little bit easier with transition and with the rotating shifts. And so family life was a little bit easier for me to go through. So I had a lot of support from my home life and my family. Um, but other than that, that was my main goal, was reaching out to the kids in the community and doing the best that I can
Okay.
to serve.
All right. So mentorship is a vital part of career success for any career. Our recruiters and academy staff mentor applicants throughout the process. So our background investigators and recruiters here will mentor an applicant from start to finish. And once that applicant is hired and is a part of the academy, they then become a police recruit. Speak on your mentorship or your guidance after you were hired and once you began the police academy. What did that structure look like for you?
I think from the start I had to go in with a positive attitude, and I couldn't really look at the news or TV and put that perspective like everyone has had on police officers. So I knew I had to be that role model for especially Black females that want to change their career and be a police officer. I feel like I have a true connection with people, and a lot of people say, if you just speak to me, I'll listen. Don't yell at me. People like to be spoken to and not yelled at, or just because I have a badge, I can tell you everything to do. No, we don't know what everyone's going through in their lives behind the scenes. So we want to approach it and respect them. I wanted to make sure that I put a positive spin on what the agency was all about as a Black female officer.
Okay. And again, I'm going to pose the same question to you as I did the other panelist. If a potential job seeker was to approach you today, what would you tell them about joining? And then add in there, what was your most rewarding part of your career so far?
Um, I think you have to want the job, and it's not like coming from, I would say, coming from one position saying, oh, I just need another job, I'm going to try this. You got to really want it and know what the job's about. And just like the other officers, I've done ride-alongs, and I would suggest that to those people that are interested. Get a feel of what you're actually getting into. Don't watch the news, don't watch TV, don't watch Cops, because that's not anything like being on the road. And as a police officer, you really want to kind of get involved as much as you can. Visit precincts. I would certainly tell them that it's a great agency. There are many, many opportunities, and get to know people. Don't be afraid of talking to people. I made a goal from when I started was I'm going to speak to as many people as I possibly can. And I'm going to get as many business cards as I possibly can, because I want these people to remember me for promotions and things like that. And I'm going to offer assistance and show up to calls that I'm not assigned to, because I know other specialized units are there. I want to show that I'm interested, and I want to know what you do and how you do it so I can do my job better. So that I think there's many opportunities that are out there that people really don't see. And I want to try to get that out to any interested candidates.
All right. And a common denominator that I've seen with our honored guests and also panelists is you all are serving on the job and then also on your personal time. You all are coaches involved in nonprofits, and you are engaging in the community naturally. And I think that's what makes a good police officer, somebody who really is a true public servant, both in uniform and out of uniform. So thank you to all of my guests. Thank you to my honored panelists, Director Kelly Fenner. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you again for taking the time to be with us this evening. Hopefully you were able to learn something. We want to leave you with some important information. We want to make sure that you have our contact information. So the first step is for you to go online to our website. You can go to www.joinbaltimorecountypd.com. On that website, you'll find a link to apply. You'll get an applicant number, and then you'll also see more information about benefits, salaries, and specialized units. We are hiring for police cadet, police officer, and lateral police officer. Also, follow us on our Facebook page. It's Baltimore County Police Recruitment, and also follow us on our Instagram page, and that's at Baltco Police. So BALTCO Police. We look forward to meeting you. Good luck.